Thank you for clicking on this video. Today I'm going to talk about the Smashing Pumpkins' final album. I say final before the split, the comeback, etc. But it's part of that iconic 5 album run, which brought the band to an end in the year 2000. That is, of course, Machina. And it's quite a divisive album. Not a lot of the hardcore fan base will quote this album as their favourite, and certainly not as the definitive album of the Smashing Pumpkins, absolutely not. But what I want to do today is talk about the merits of this album and why it might be the most well-rounded, and maybe include a little bit for everyone, for people that are not necessarily fans of the band, things that are not present in other albums of theirs. So maybe this is the ultimate album for new fans to sort of dip their toe into the pumpkin pond, as it were. Well, immediately track 1 kicks in, and let's not forget that this is the album that saw the return of original drummer Jimmy Chamberlin after Adore was primarily all electronic drum beats. This is a fantastic performance from Jimmy, accompanied with the sort of fuzzy guitar of Billy, that opening unforgettable. I don't think I'll do that again. I think that's up there with them iconic Pumpkins moments, them quick sound bites. If you were to have grown up in the UK and watched a lot of sort of Kerrang TV around mid 2000s, maybe a bit later as well, that was always something that would maybe sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? It would bring you back from the commercial break. It would be the quick 10 seconds, this is what our station represents. So for me, that holds a special place in my heart, and it's sort of up there with The World is a Vampire, for example, the start of Bullet with Butterfly Wings. The song itself, the chorus, it's got a bit of that underlying synth accompanied with the fuzzy guitars and the heavy drumming, which definitely wasn't prominent on Adore, which was the album beforehand. So in many respects, this is a bit of a return to form. It's got that strong guitar-led chorus, and just riffs, drumming. It's got a little something for everyone here. The time it was released didn't really fit with the overall soundscape of 2000s popular rock music. It's definitely not new metal, but it's not melancholy. It's got a place on its own, and I think it's a song with a lot of merit. And then we go into track 2, which is Raindrops and Sunflowers. This song, it's a bit of a return to that Adore sound, except with the additional galloping drum beat, which is provided by Jimmy there. It's got a lot of energy that was not prominent on Adore. I think, maybe it was just the overall writing process, the drums taken into account. Again, I think this could have fit on Adore, which is an album I'm not a huge fan of. It's certainly not one that I go back to and listen to all that often. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It certainly encapsulates what Adore was going for, so it definitely has a place in some people's hearts. Then we go into track 3, Stand Inside Your Love. In many ways, this is the closest thing to an anthemic rock song that Billy Corgan has ever penned. This is a song that I love to see them perform live. I'm pretty sure they played it when I saw the 2008 version of the band, which of course was Billy, Jimmy, and the hired hands. And they played it when I saw them in October last year, 2018. It's pretty fucking good, if you ask me. It's got a lot of melancholy traits to it, in that it is a love song, but it has got that sort of sense of dread. And a lot of people don't listen to music for a bit of dread, but this is a Smashing Pumpkins album. We then go into track 4, Eye of the Morning, and for me, this is the closest thing that we get to, or maybe the second closest thing we get to, if we're not counting another song off this album. And that is sounding like early 2000s U2, which it's a beautiful day, that sort of era. And I don't know. I think the thing with mid 90s Smashing Pumpkins is they got on the radio without going for that radio friendly sound. I'm not discrediting the song, saying that it's worthless, for example. Radio, what's the song? That earworm, radio, playing my favourite song over and over again. That's a bit of an earworm that some people might have a soft spot for. You know, it's chantable, it's sing-alongable, if that's a word. It's not. And I don't have a whole lot of time for that one. We then go into track 5, The Sacred and Profane, which is a song that I do have a lot of time for. It's got a lot of qualities that are evident in the tracks before, but it contains more warmth to it. I think warmth is an important word when it comes to the Smashing Pumpkins. And I would say it's not similar to a song like Luna of Siamese Dream or Beautiful of Melancholy. But it does have that warmth. It gets you right in the feels, and but it does have that bit more of a brooding aspect to it, and yeah, that overall sense of this is the end, but we feel good about it. So then we go into track 6, Try, 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 which yeah, it's a song that splits a lot of people. For me, I mean, when I first saw the video, I thought, yeah, this is quite powerful stuff, isn't it? They seem to always play this live. From what I believe, all sort of incarnations of the band from the year 2008 onwards have played the song. I think I definitely saw them play it in 2008, and I liked the song a lot back then, to be honest. But I think as time has gone on, it's sort of got worn out its welcome for me. It just doesn't quite hit the mark. It's definitely an ambitious song, and I think that some people would get something from this, but for me, not so much. So then we go into track 7, which is Heavy Metal Machine, which is it's a song. It's thick in that new sound that is introduced in this album. It has got the fuzzy distortion. It's got the grooving bass. It's nice to have Jimmy back on the drums, obviously. You could say it sounds bloated. You could say that this is Corgan's lyrics at their most self-indulgent. Billy has often referred to the fact that this album, or certainly at least aspects of the album, I wrote under the guise of his character, which he concocted, called Glass. Something that's not entirely fully explained. At the time, there was certainly some further reading, as it were, for fans regarding the Machina mystery. As I did not get into the band until a few years later than this, due to myself being born in 1990, obviously I missed out on the absolute heyday of the band. For me, though, if you ignore all this kind of "if I was dead would my record sell" thing, it is a good song, because I do like that heavy Corgan sort of bloated sound. As ridiculous as that sounds, why would you want someone to sound that obnoxious, that upfront, and that unavoidable? Well, I think what makes that great is that if you want a rock band to have that personality at the front of them, you're getting it here in spades. I love the sound, and for me, if you made some slight tweaks to the production, it does sit quite well on track 2 of Melancholy, which for many is the absolute sort of top of the bar. The Pumpkins at their height. So that, along with an XYU or a Bodies, I think it does have a place with them, and is arguably as good, if not better. So yeah, I think that's another reason which makes this album perhaps that one to listen to if you are a new fan. After Heavy Metal Machine, we go into This Time, which is for me, it's like a perfect goodbye to the band. It's a more somber and emotional and powerful end than what we do actually get from the album, and in some ways it's sort of comparable to the end of the 2 discs of Melancholy. The Farewell and Goodnight style track, in that it's quite clearly saying goodbye. You're saying this is time for the band, not that straight up front, but it's obviously heavily implied. And yeah, just the overall sound of it, the soundscapes, the synths, the different production, the guitars, It's quite emotional. And to be quite honest, if I was going to put a sort of top 10 Pumpkins tracks playlist together, and that definitely has a place on it, and it's probably how I would close that greatest hits or just sort of track list if I was going to close that. After this time, we go into This Imploding Voice. For me, this one does sound a little bit dated in some ways. Sort of like if you go back and listen to some of Garbage's output, and ironically, this album is not produced by Butch Vig. It's pure Pumpkins cheese in a lot of ways. For me, it is a fun song. It's a bit like a more sort of tired Cherub Rock in that, yeah, they are projecting this big song out there. Perhaps it doesn't have that energy, and the lyrics, or perhaps the way that the lyrics are delivered, does have that hint of cheese to it. But as far as I'm concerned, cheesy Smashing Pumpkins is great Smashing Pumpkins. In that, if you like Euphoria, if you like the daftness, the silliness, then you're getting it here. It's not smacking you in the face with silliness, but it's certainly there. Then we go into Glass and the Ghost Children, which is a song that clocks in at in the 10-minute mark. And it's quite divisive amongst fans. It's certainly a journey. It's like Through the Eyes of Ruby of Melancholy, but on acid, as some people like to say when they refer to things taken to that next step. For me, it's easily skippable. It doesn't necessarily need to be on the album. I've mentioned about Corgan's lyrics being bloated. This is taking that all the way as high as that can go. Sometimes, yeah, good. I like it, but if I'm sort of just doing a bit of a Pumpkins shuffle, I don't have time for this. But it certainly reflected a lot of Billy's ideas. So I think it does deserve to be listened to. In some ways, yeah, it's definitely got its place on the album, even if you don't fancy strapping in for that ride every time. Then we go into Wound, and for me, this is more of the U2. It's a Beautiful Day style production, style delivery. It's Corgan going for Radio 2 in a lot of ways. Even though maybe cracking Radio 2 on your final album, is there a whole lot of benefit to that? Maybe not. For me, non-essential. Skip. Then we go to With Every Light, which it's sort of similar to Lily, My One and Only in a lot of ways. It's gently delivered. It's the full band, and it's another one of them songs that makes you think, yeah, this is the end of the road. And this is another good sort of sail off into the sunset style song. Again, could you do an album sort of all based on this? Probably not, but it's got its place. It certainly has. And then after With Every Light, which is that more gentle sing-song, good time, we go into The Crying Tree of Mercury, which is a song that I absolutely could not stand for a long time. That was until I saw the documentary that came out. I think it was released... it came out on DVD late 2008. I remember getting that at the time, but it focused on the 2007 residency shows for the band. And there was a fantastic live version that the band played on there. It's sort of reimagined version from the album one, but for me, because it stripped down a lot of that sort of overwhelming soundscope and maybe sort of synthy darkness of Machina, I actually got to appreciate the song in a sort of more bare format. And then I went back to Machina and I was like, yeah, I actually love this song. For a lot of people, no, it's more sort of that bloated, that Corgan at his worst vocally. But for me, I love it. And then we go into the last song of the album, Age of Innocence. For me, it does everything that Untitled does not do. It feels more imaginative, it feels more homely, it feels more hopeful, and it feels more anthemic. It's got so many qualities, which is what continues to draw me back to this band since I've become a fan. I never really went away, in that they do deliver so many things that a lot of bands do not. It's got that You can't really call it iconic because it hasn't really made a return to the set list at all since the band have returned at any point. But that sort of desolation, yes, hesitation, no, over and over again. That's certainly another earworm which can get stuck in your head for a long time. It makes you feel good. It's got that sort of feel good factor to it, which is nice to see. As the song ends, it definitely leaves me with a sense of, right, there's some unfinished business here for the band. And it's certainly not the goodbye that this time would have been, which I think maybe the sort of track listing is a bit of an issue. But as has been mentioned more recently, this was not the definitive album that, or the completed album, which Billy wanted to release. He's certainly been going back to have a look at all the demos from the time, maybe remixing some of it, maybe re-releasing it in a different order, which I'm certainly quite interested to see. So that just brings me on to saying, is Machina the definitive Smashing Pumpkins album? It certainly ticks off a lot more boxes than Gish does. Gish is fairly one-dimensional. Siamese Dream, I feel like it would be a bit insulting to call Siamese Dream one-dimensional, in that it's hard, it's soft, it's got numerous speeds, it's got incredible lyrics, but it's of a genre. It's quite clearly all guitar based. It all was written in that one time. As an album should, it should reflect where a band is at that one moment. But it feels like they're not drawing from all that much, as they weren't, because they only did have that one album in the bag at the time. And then we go on to sort of that melancholy era, which obviously covers a lot more ground. I'd say it covers a lot more ground than Machina does, but it has absolutely crazy sort of diversions, whereas Machina gracefully pulls different tricks out of the bag and implements them in. And maybe because it doesn't go so wild as Melancholy, it is that bit more forgettable, in that because there are them sort of minor tweaks or minor turns in different directions, they don't stick with you quite as much. Then we go on to Adore, which this album quite clearly is the predecessor to. It's in a lot of ways it's what Adore could have been had Jimmy been in the fold, and but obviously more guitars, less electro driven, but just enough pulling from Adore to make it a superior album to that, in my opinion. So is Machina the definitive album? Well, after nearly 18 minutes, would it be a bit of a cop-out for me to say it's not for me to say? Well, it's not. It's up to new listeners of the band. It's up to people that are just discovering that music, who think, right, I get something from this album that I'm not getting from everywhere else. For me, it's the smorgasbord that Siamese Dream and Gish are not. Even if I might prefer to listen to Siamese Dream, Machina, it's certainly more ambitious. And after Melancholy proved to be the success that it was, and then Adore clearly taking that dive, I feel like Machina is that massive risk, but at the same time, it wasn't a return to a sound to go straight back to make an attempt to gain the critical success that they had 4 years earlier. So anyway, thank you for listening to this, and my name's Simon. You can see sort of descriptions, Twitter links, etc. below this video. If you want to listen to some more rubbish coming out of my mouth, please do. Thank you.